Gaza cut off from the outside world as a fuel shortage shuts down phone and internet services.
Another 4 years at the helm of Spain's government. Pedro Sanchez has been re-elected Prime Minister by the Congress of Deputies. Finland closes 4 of its border crossings with Russia. Helsinki says Moscow is allowing migrants through without documents.
Decision in Brussels. 10-year extension of glyphosate license.
Plumes of smoke rising above Gaza's skyline. This, as the Palestinian Media Office reported, a complete communications blackout on Thursday due to lack of fuel. As a consequence, the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees says the delivery of food and other essential supplies is now at a standstill inside the enclave. The World Food Programme has also warned that Gaza's population could starve to death due to the collapse of the food system. Meanwhile, staff at the Al-Shifa hospital are doing what they can, performing life-saving operations without anaesthesia, under the watchful eye of Israeli troops who continue to search the complex for Hamas militants who they claim are using the facility as cover. Israel's forces say they have taken, quote, operational control of the Gaza City port they say was used by Hamas as a training centre. As the death toll rises, the UN's High Commissioner for Human Rights says there needs to be full accountability for the human rights violations committed since the 7th of October.
The European Union's top diplomat, Josep Borrell, is on a tour of the Middle East, which started in Kibbutz Be'eri in Israel, 3 kilometres from Gaza. Here, on the 7th of October, Hamas militants killed at least 130 people, including women, children and babies. The armed group murdered more than 1,200 people during the attack against Israel and kidnapped at least 240 people. Borrell has met survivors of the attack and family members, accompanied by the Israeli Foreign Minister.
And we all should be united to free Gaza from Hamas, for the security of the State of Israel, for the people in Gaza, and for the entire world. Otherwise, Europe will be the next.
While the intense fighting against Hamas militants in Gaza is taking a heavy toll on civilians, Borrell says the EU will continue to stand by Israel's right to self-defence. He called for Hamas to be defeated and the hostages to be freed. But he acknowledged the militant group doesn't represent Palestinian people whose lives, he said, should be protected. Borrell urged unrestricted humanitarian access to the Gaza Strip so that aid can get to those who need it. He says it includes humanitarian corridors and pauses in the fighting.
I understand the fears and pain of the people that has been attacked, slaughtered, kidnapped. I understand your rage. But let me ask you not to be consumed by rage. I think that that's what the best friend of Israel can tell you. Because what makes the difference between a civilized society and a terrorist group is the respect for human life.
Borrell's diplomatic mission continues in the occupied West Bank. He'll also travel to Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Qatar and Jordan for talks about humanitarian assistance. The President of the European Commission will visit Egypt and Jordan this weekend. At least 6 Israeli troops have been injured in a shooting in the occupied West Bank. The Israeli Defense Forces says 3 armed men got out of a car that stopped at a checkpoint. The gunmen were all shot dead. The IDF says 2 of them have been identified as Hamas members. Israeli authorities say they found axes, guns and ammunition inside the car. Police believe the gunmen were planning a large-scale attack. Palestinian media say schools in the area have been closed for safety reasons. Police in Germany have raided 54 properties with possible links to the Islamic centre of Hamburg. The centre is suspected of violating the constitution and supporting the Lebanese armed group Hezbollah. Hezbollah is designated a terrorist organisation and has been banned in Germany since 2020.
Unsere Sicherheitsbehörden ermitteln gegen das Islamische Zentrum Hamburg und mehrere mögliche Teilorganisationen. Wir gehen dem Verdacht nach, dass diese Organisationen sich gegen unsere Verfassungsordnung richten. Außerdem wird geprüft, ob die libanesische Terrororganisation Hisbollah von hier aus unterstützt wird.
Local intelligence services have been warning of extremist tendencies detected at the Islamic Centre. The operation comes at a sensitive time for Europe's Jewish community, where anti-Semitic attacks have risen due to the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza.
The United Nations top court has ordered Syrian authorities to take all measures in their power to prevent torture. It's the first case concerning the regime's abuses during the civil war that broke out in 2011 to reach the International Court of Justice. The order comes a day after French courts issued an international arrest warrant for the Syrian president. Bashar al-Assad is accused of complicity in crimes against humanity for chemical attacks in Syria in 2013.
Backed by 179 lawmakers in the 350-seat lower house of Parliament, Spain's acting Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez has been re-elected and will head the new coalition government for another 4 years. After failing to win the majority of votes in July's general election, Sánchez finally got the backing of 6 smaller parties. The socialist leader signed a deal that could secure amnesty for as many as 1,400 activists and politicians involved in the attempt to separate Catalonia from Spain. Euronews reporter Jaime Velázquez has more.
Pese a haber quedado en segundo lugar en las elecciones, Pedro Sánchez vuelve a demostrar su capacidad de resurgir de las cenizas y labrar grandes alianzas para volver a ser presidente del gobierno. Sánchez es un experto en equilibrios políticos, no en vano este será su segundo gobierno en minoría, pero sus pactos con los separatistas catalanes y la contestación en las calles por la futura ley de amnistía anticipan una legislatura extremadamente complicada. El gobierno de Sánchez nace con una espada de Damocles sobre su cabeza. Los independentistas catalanes ya han advertido que le dejarán caer si no cumple con su palabra de traer de vuelta a Carles Puigdemont a España y a otros activistas catalanes. No será fácil, pero si algo ha demostrado Pedro Sánchez durante todos estos años es su habilidad para siempre caer de pie. En Madrid, Jaime Velázquez, Euronews.
Russian artist Alexandra Skochelenko has been sentenced to 7 years in prison by a St. Petersburg court, charged with spreading false information about the Russian armed forces. The 33-year-old replaced price tags in a supermarket with anti-war messages denouncing Russia's invasion of Ukraine. She was detained in April last year after Moscow adopted a law effectively criminalizing any public comments about the war that deviate from the official Kremlin line.
A lone border guard walking along Finland's frontier, some 200 kilometres from St. Petersburg. Helsinki says it will close 4 of its eastern border crossings at midnight on Friday. They are located on the boundary with Russia and are external to the European Union. The move comes amid an increase in undocumented asylum seekers and allegations Russian authorities are helping them cross the tightly controlled border. Prime Minister Petteri Orpo says dozens of arrivals, mostly from the Middle East and Africa, have filed for asylum, but without proper paperwork. The Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova says these accusations are unfounded, maintaining Moscow is not obliged to, quote, screen migrants. For decades, Russian and Finnish border authorities worked together to prevent people entering either country without valid visas or passports.
The authorization of glyphosate in the European Union will be extended for 10 years. This is the result of the political impasse in which the member states find themselves. Once again, the 27 governments failed to reach a qualified majority on Thursday to approve or reject the proposal. The Commission, which had already announced that it would continue the process of extending the life of this controversial substance in wheat killers, therefore had the final say.
No contradiction, I would say. Thank you. Follow up. The Commission has the legal obligation to take a decision, and this decision that we will take is based on the scientific analysis that we got from EFSA, ECHA, and the scientific community, and which will lead indeed to a renewal of the glyphosate.
The Commission's proposal follows the study published by the European Food Safety Authority in July. It came to the conclusion that there are no unacceptable risks to humans, animals, or the environment that would justify a ban on glyphosate. In the European Parliament, the Greens are denouncing this argument.
Cette proposition de renouveler le glyphosate, elle est dramatique pour la santé humaine. On compte un nombre croissant de victimes qui sont malades de cancer, de déformations dès leur plus jeune âge, mais aussi pour le vivant. Et on a de nombreuses études qui montrent l'effet dévastateur sur la biodiversité du glyphosate. Et donc, l'Europe a un choix. Soit elle empoisonne, soit elle protège. Et par ce vote, l'abstention, les États membres qui avaient les moyens d'empêcher cette proposition ont finalement contribué à cette dégradation de la santé, à cette dévastation de la nature. Ils se cachent aujourd'hui derrière leur abstention en prétendant que eux étaient opposés puisqu'ils se sont abstenus, donc ils n'ont pas donné blanc-seing à la Commission européenne. C'est tout à fait hypocrite.
The Commission pointed out that the member states are responsible for the use of glyphosate at national levels. Governments can therefore restrict the use of this product within their borders if they so wish.